This sequence is working towards URDHVA DHANURASANA, which is full wheel. It's a really quite a strong back bend, which requires strength, but also flexibility. And the sequence here is really looking at opening up the whole front line of the body. So that includes thighs, quadriceps, hip flexors, chest, thoracic spine, so chest moving forwards and up, and also shoulders. So prop-wise, it's going to be useful to have 2 bricks. And then, of course, feel free to ask any questions, and I would love to hear how you get on. Enjoy. Bring your hands out in front of you and cross your wrists over so that your palms are facing out. And then hook your little fingers together, miss the next finger, hook the middle fingers and the index fingers, and then all you've got left is your thumbs and your ring fingers, and the tips of those two connect. Yeah, so same hand, connect. And then you draw the hands in towards the chest and wing the elbows wide, sit tall and close the eyes. Drop your attention into your heart and imagine that it just slightly drifts towards the mudra. Have a sense that the heart is buoyant and elevated. This gesture, this mudra in yoga is called URDHVA, which means fearless or courageous heart. So now with your attention kind of heightened around the heart region, perhaps you could ask it this question: what deeply matters to me as a human? And see if it has anything to say. See if there is a little word or a sentence or a suggestion of something right from the depths of your intuitive heart. What deeply matters to me as a human? It might be I'm peaceful. What is there for you? Invite that slightly forwards and up. Invite that quality forwards and up. And then bow the thinking mind to that. Bow the head. Open the eyes. And unravel the hands. Cool. Grab yourself a couple of bricks. If you don't have bricks, don't worry, you can use books. And you want them to be the same height because you're going to make an equal sign. You start to lower yourself onto your forearm so it's really easy to control. And you put one of the bricks or the books behind your heart, and the second one goes behind the head, so you've got a little headrest there. If it doesn't feel very comfortable, then just check that that first brick is underneath the heart. In fact, put your hand where you think your heart is, and then just check, is it around the same region? If the brick is too low, it usually doesn't feel very comfortable. And then position the arms so that it feels comfy for your shoulders. And decide, are you going to keep your knees bent, or is it reasonable to extend the legs out long? And certainly you can close your eyes. And just notice the whole front sweep of the body. The tops of the feet, the fronts of the legs, the hips, the abdomen, the chest, the heart region, the throat and the face. This whole front line. The sequence is designed to gently, softly work through all areas of this front line and encourage them open, long at ease. And we start this in a very kind of gentle, passive way. Few more breaths. And then when you're ready, turn your big toes in towards each other so your thighs are parallel. And then one by one, bend your knees and plant the soles of your feet back onto the ground. You're going to find your easiest way off of the brick. So I find it easiest just to roll onto my side, use the top arm to push, and come up. And then get rid of one of the bricks, but keep the other one. Because you're going to roll back down onto your back, but you're flat now. You put your brick on its lowest setting, and you're placing it underneath the pelvis. So nice low setting on your brick. Draw your right knee in towards you. Give it a squeeze and extend the other leg long. Left heel, so the leg that's extended, the heel is pushing down into the ground. Same arm reaches in completely the opposite direction, up and away from that foot. And you want a really nice kind of dynamic line, which is actively reaching, heel pushing down, down, down. And can you perhaps start to feel this front panel of the left hip, drawing open, peeling open, your hip flexors. Reach, 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 little more, little more. And then relax that left side. Switch it over so the left knee comes in and the right leg goes long. Right leg, right arm reaches out. Remember, push the right heel down into the ground. Reach the right fingertips up and away. Active, active. And again, can you feel that front line? Your hip flexors, particularly the psoas, which attaches onto your spine, moves through your hip and onto your leg. And then bring everything in. Put the feet down. Push them into the ground and lift the hips up. And then keep lifting the hips up, 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 up. Thighs are parallel. Ground down through the balls of your big toes. And then if you like, if it feels appropriate, you can bring your shoulders in underneath you and push your arms into the ground as well. Setu Bandhasana. And the heart is doming up. Feel your glutes a little active. And spaciousness creeping up the whole front of the body. And then release your hands and ripple down the spine. You're going to bring yourself up to sit, easiest route you can find. Feel free to roll onto your side if you prefer that. And then come into all fours. So a little bit different than the standard moving cat. We're going to see if we can really notice the articulation across the whole of the spine, what it's able to do. So we're going to see if we can tuck the chin in first. So you're moving your cervical spine first, the top of your spine first. The chin tucks in towards the chest. And then can you send your heart up to the sky? And then can you let the movement go into your lower back as you drop the tail back and down. So you've sent the wave of movement from the head down to the tail. And then you're going to reverse it. So you swing the sits bones back first. You start from the base. Then you let the heart descend and move forwards. And then the last thing to go is the neck. And the focus will, of course, move up. Good. Let's see if you can do that again. So head first. Heart. Good. Sits bones moving, pelvis moving, tail tucking. And then ripple it back, tail first. Heart. Head. Last time. Chin, head. Heart up to sky. Lower back, tail. Tail. Navel lowers. Heart lowers. Neck and head last. Great. And then tuck your toes underneath. Rock your hips back and find a downwards facing dog. So we only did that 3 times through, but really, do you know what, that is just the loveliest thing to do in the morning. You can do it, for something like 5 minutes or so. Just rippling up and down the spine. And it's great because it really starts to sort of awaken our awareness to the potential of the whole of the spine. Because what tends to happen is we tend to get very familiar with the articulation or movement of some parts of the spine, and then they can get a little bit overused. And particularly for backbending, we want to invite the whole of the spine into the collaboration so that no one part of the spine is getting particularly overly stressed. If you like, you could ripple forwards here. So you could draw your navel in. Your shoulders are starting to move towards your wrists. You're letting a wave come through the spine until you're in a plank position. I'm going to have to move mine out a little bit. Until you're in a plank position, at which point you lower your knees onto the ground. Take a breath in, and then exhale, come to lower all the way down onto your front. Roll the shoulders back and away, arms down the sides of the body, and lift your chest. Tops of the feet are on the ground. So always just check that you've got the distance between your feet right. Yeah, you'll know because your lower back won't feel great if you've got the distance wrong for your sacrum, this sort of keystone bone at the bottom of your back. You don't want it to feel restricted or pinched either side. So can you feel how in this back bend the whole of the spine is in harmony, the whole of the spine is getting involved? Bring your hands on either side of your chest, rock the weight back or forwards, tuck the toes and then lift the hips. Again, downwards facing dog. So obviously some parts of the spine are better at back bending than other parts. Yeah, every part of the spine has its different sort of super power or super skill. But we're just checking that we don't overdo it in those areas that are good at back bending. Lower back is a classic. Yeah, lower back is good at back bending. But we don't want to strain it or overdo it at the same time. Roll forwards. Straighten it out into a plank. And then again, knees down onto the ground. Bend the elbows down onto your front. Roll your shoulders back and away. Lift yourself to Cobra now. So the hands stay down. Shoulders are drawing away from the earth. Top's got a bit caught. And then you check the distance between the feet. Two more breaths. One more. The glutes will be a little bit active, that's correct. And then soften down, rock back. Tuck toes and lift the hips high. Now walk your hands back towards your feet and just come into Uttanasana. Bring your hands onto your hips, navel in, and hinge up to stand. Cool, we're going to do a little quad stretch because it will be helpful for our back bend. Right hand, right ankle, and just level the knees up and just stay here for a moment. Get it to a place where you feel a nice sensation of opening in the front of the thigh. Again, it's kind of similar to the high lunge. You feel the front crest of your hips lifting, and you should feel that nice stretch in the front line. And then by all means, if you can feel that your thigh is really tight, then maybe it's useful to stay there. If you'd like to turn it into Natarajasana, then let's just bring the left hand onto the heart and open it up into a standing back bend. It's very simply, let's do the other side. Switch over. Left hand, left ankle. Again, really watching, noticing, seeking around for that pleasant stretch down the front of the thigh. Stretching your quads makes quite a big difference to what's available in the back bend. Absolutely, you can stay there, or again, you can just lift your heart up into your hand, draw your thigh up and back. And then bring the knee back in, put the foot back down, and hinge back into Uttanasana. Walk your hands back out into downward facing dog. From here, let's take the right leg up and away behind us. Breathe in, right leg high. Draw the right hip to the sky and bend the right knee. And then extend right leg long and step right foot between the two hands. Make sure you got a little bit of space widthways between the feet. Legs strong. Drift the hands up off the ground and come into a high lunge. In your high lunge, draw the front crest of your hips up so that you have some awareness of your hip flexors again, this front panel of the hip. And then lift the arms, but cross the forearms and just reach the elbows up towards the sky. I'm going to take something like 5 breaths here. See if you can extend your back knee. Don't worry if you can't. It's more important that you lift the front crest of the hips. Draw the arms down and see, just for balance, can you step onto your front leg and bring the back knee up in front of you. So have a go, see if you can do it in one even swoop. Woo! And then interlace the fingers behind your back. Feed that leg back behind you, so left leg still the one that's lifted. Reach it up and away. And again, just like when you're lying down, you're rolling your shoulders back and down, lifting the front of the chest. If you feel you can tilt forwards as well, be my guest, makes it a little trickier. Woo. And then step back into the high lunge. From the high lunge, hands come back together in front of your heart, and then let's do a twist. So turn towards your front leg, hook the opposite arm over, so it's your left arm, push your palms and come around into a twist. Both hands down to the ground. Step on back to plank. And then let's come into side plank. So move onto your right hand, outside edge of your right foot, and draw the left arm high. Your underneath hand is slightly higher than your shoulder. The navel zips in, the pelvis lifts. And then the top foot is going to step back behind you. Front of your pelvis draws up, wild thing. From wild thing all the way back over into a standard plank. You can definitely put your knees down on the ground if you're going to go to the floor, or if you're going to up dog, keep your knees off. Bend the elbows, chaturanga. Inhale, up dog, or cobra. And then exhale, downwards facing. Left leg up and away behind you. Lift left hip and bend left knee. Extend left leg long. Step left foot between your two hands. Again, high lunge. Hands come up. Forearms cross. You're drawing your elbows up and you're drawing the front crest of your hips up. 5 breaths. Sweep the hands down in front of the heart. Again, can you move through? Here's the little balance challenge. Can you move through in one nice even movement? Back knee draws up in front of you. And then you feed that foot straight back behind you. Interlace your fingers. And invigorate the back surface of the body to span open across the front. The tilt is optional. And then step back into your high lunge again. Hands to heart. Spin towards your front leg, which is your left leg now. Hook the front arm over, the right arm over. Twist. And then both hands down to the ground. Step back to plank. This time we're flipping onto the left hand, outside edge of left foot, and the right arm's lifting up. Top foot steps back, front of pelvis lifts wildly. And then back into a standard plank. Knees down if you need. Bend the elbows. Cobra or chaturanga. And then downward facing dog. From here, lift the heels, bend the knees, and bring them all the way down onto the ground. Keep your toes tucked underneath. Rock your hips back. We're going to go into Ustrasana, and there's a couple of versions of this, and you just pick the one that suits. You could bring your hips up, interlace your fingers behind your back, and just lift the chest from here. This would be perfect. If you know you can do a little bit more, then imagine you have 2 sets of cogs in your body. one in the pelvis and one in the ribs. Just like with the high lunge, you're drawing the front crest of your pelvis up, so it's like your cog is turning that way, front crest drawing up, and then the same in the chest, you're turning, 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 turning. You draw the hands back towards the heels, and the pelvis is still moving forwards and up, forwards and up. You can keep your chin tucked if your neck is a little bit delicate, or you can carefully release the head up and back. And then come back. Release your toes and just sit for a moment. So we're going to do one last thing with the shoulders before we move on to our peak posture. So find yourself a belt. Could be any kind of belt, doesn't have to be a yoga belt. And so a yoga belt, usually the right dimensions are kind of to just fold it in half. But maybe that you have a different length belt, so you can kind of play around with it a bit. Make sure you hold on to the metal bit so you don't knock your face. And then you're going to lift, let's say right arm up in front of you, left arm low. So you have a straight line down in front of your face. And then you switch it over, so your left hand goes high and your right arm goes low. You take both of your arms over to the right, and then up over the head, and down the other side. Now when you come back, your left arm will be low, and your right arm will be high, which is where we began. The hands switch over, both hands go to the right, up overhead, and over the other side. Yeah, and you just repeat that loop. The more space you have between your hands, usually the easier it is. The closer your hands are, the stronger it's going to be on your shoulders. Has a bit of the football fan about it. And the belt stays taut the whole time. Nice. So same thing, let's go back the other way. You just reverse it, you just go to the opposite side of the room. As the right hand will come in low, and they switch over. And then you can put your belt down. We're going to have a go at full wheel. So as usual with peak postures, there's several versions. And you feel no obligation to go past the point which is sensible for your spine. It's pretty obvious because just like at the beginning of the sequence, what you want to feel is that the whole of the spine is involved in this symphony of backbending. Even though some parts of the spine are better at backbending, you don't want those areas to feel like they are freaking out because they're having to do everything. Particularly lower back. So come to lie down, knees bent, feet are parallel, thighs remain parallel. You press into the feet and you lift your hips up. Version 1 would be around here, or with the shoulders nestled in underneath you, pressing your arms into the ground. Version 2 would be putting your hands either side of your head, drawing your fingertips back and pressing your palms into the ground. Hands a little bit wider than shoulder width. Push strongly down into the hands and feet. Lift the shoulders draw all the way up into full wheel. Again, you want the whole of the spine to be happy. If you'd like to carry on beyond this, one of your knees draws up to the sky, and then you extend the leg. Give yourself time to try the other side. And then easier said than done, slow, controlled lower to the ground. Wriggle your feet a bit wider apart than hips and just rest your thighs together. It can sometimes feel nice to just hug one hand onto the opposite wrist, give it a squeeze. Other side. And then maybe even windscreen wiper the knees. Close your eyes. And I always really encourage this. Just assess for a moment. What do you need to finish your sequence? Is there something that you intuitively know will serve you really well? Feel free to add that on if you do. If you're not sure, you could rock both knees to the right and just leave them there a moment. And then both knees to the left and leave them there a moment. And then knees back, and perhaps give your legs a little hug. Before you lie down in Shavasana. Flat on your back. As you lie there, take a deep breath in. And sigh. Sense the whole front line of the body. Soft, open and at ease. And then sense the whole back area of the body. Soft, open, at ease. And in the center of all of this, your beating heart. Deep well of intuition and wisdom, perhaps whispering its soft word of intention, reminding you of what's important to you. As you rest, let go, let go, let go. Feel the breathing deepen. Take a little reach, wriggle, stretch. Turn the big toes in towards each other. Draw your navel lightly in towards your spine and then hug the legs one at a time back in towards your heart. Roll onto your side. Press your way up to sit. And return your hands back into fearless heart. Crossing your wrists, hooking the little finger, missing the next, middle, index, and then tip of thumbs and ring fingers together. Close the eyes, sit tall, and remind your heart to float up, to be buoyant, to be heard, to be courageous. Bow the head, open the eyes.